Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Mackmyra Inn once again, another one of our pub sessions. Joining me, as always, my fellow landlord, Micky Plummer. Good evening, Mick.
Evening, Rich. Evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we all? Hope we're all well.
Hopefully well. Let us know in the comments how you're faring. Hopefully everyone's having a good day. At least where I am, the weather seems to have cleared up from some rather torrential week or so the last 7 days. And also joining us as our VIP patron this evening is Sarah Temple. Hello, Sarah. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks.
Yeah.
You guys?
Rainy Scotland for you, or is the sun
No,
shining?
so was rainy.
Glowy Scotland.
Only just stopped raining and the sun is shining again. It's one of those weird days where you think it's going to be dead sunny, then you think it's going to rain, but it doesn't. And then when you think it's going to be dead sunny again, it rains.
Oh.
So it's one of them weird days.
Perfect timing for getting inside into the pub then, rather than yeah. I look forward to the day of us having the Mackmyra Inn tea in a pub garden.
That would be nice.
So, Mick, any updates, any news from Mackmyra? What have you got coming up?
So it's getting closer, Rich, to what we've been teasing. So we've got a new release coming soon. It's getting sooner, but we still can't say what it is. But it's getting sooner, so keep tuned for that. So tomorrow night we have a Core Plus Bjorksav monthly tasting, which is turned out because it's been so popular. They turn out to be about every 2 weeks at the moment, which is definitely great for us. So, guys, please keep coming to these tastings. It really does help us all and gets us all a bit more educated, including myself and Rich, because every week we have to still keep doing some more reading and more learning. So it only benefits us all. And then next week we have Millie Milliken. There you go. There's our Millie, and she's on for next week's Mackmyra Inn.
Very good. Yeah, very nice. And I'll say there's one more thing that we've got bubbling that's just been launched this week, and that's we've teamed up with the chaps from Still in Cask Limited, who also happen to own the Circumstance Distillery, and another who's Psycho Pomp, I think it might be called, chaps from Bristol, who have started a cask share website, and we've listed on there one of our 200 litre elegant recipe, so unpeated whiskies in a 200 litre virgin American oak cask. So distilled and filled in 2013, so it's already 8 years old. And with that, any share that you buy in that cask, as you know, a share represents one bottle, and due to be delivered hopefully by Christmas next year, you get 15% off at the mackmyra.co.uk website until the end of 2022 as well. So not a bad bundle there. But yeah, Mick, I think that must be roughly time for your bell to go.
Rich, I was waiting for you to stop talking, in all fairness. But for this, we waited a while. So as we all know, that's our first bell. So it's time for me and Rich to put our hands in our pockets and ask you all what you're drinking. So ladies and gentlemen at home, please let us know what you're drinking this evening. Sarah, what are you having? I
am being rather predictable, and I'm having a little Invergordon from Whisky.
Very good.
42-year-old batch 15, but I think everyone expected that.
42-year-old is the batch 15, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a serious number, I think.
It is.
I've got a 25-year-old Old Particular Invergordon here.
Nice.
Which is absolutely delicious, but I'm not sure that I've tried. I'll tell you what, actually, I tried a 45-year-old Invergordon from Single Cask Nation recently as well. So Jess Lomas, friend of Mick's, friend of the brands, came on, and she was our VIP patron a number of weeks ago now. But yeah, that was fantastic. So is single grain something that you're quite into then? You mentioned predictability, or is it the boutique-y side?
It's probably that bottle, actually. Yeah, no, I do like my grain whiskey. I do have a number of the Invergordon releases from Boutique Whiskey as well, except the last one. That was a bit out of my reach, but I enjoy them.
What was the last one?
50-year-old.
Ah, yes, I did see that popping up, actually. Yeah, a handsome price attached to it, but then that's what you'd expect for something that's been in a cask for 50 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Good age.
And Mick, have you gone for your usual fancy boy drink, or?
So, Rich, I have. It's to replicate, well, to complement that 5 minutes of sun we're going to get this afternoon, or early this evening, should I say. So I've gone for a Brooks whiskey over ice and topped that up with an orange and mango juice, fizzy juice or fizzy water. And obviously garnished with my all-time only one and only garnish that I have used these days is my faithful sprig of mint.
Mickey's never-ending mint, yeah.
Honest to God, it's starting to get a bit slimmer though, so I might have to either leave it for a little bit or buy another plant because it is starting to get slimmer after all these shows. So, Rich, what you got in your glass this evening, sir?
I think you and I just seem to be almost week after week on a bit of a wavelength together, Mick. And considering we've never met, I think we're bound to be friends for a long time. I've gone for Brooks whiskey myself, but nice. Just in a Glencairn. Served sort of as is, but yeah, once again we've inexplicably and not preparedly, if that's a word, I've gone for the same one. So but and I see a few comments as well. So Tamara's got a little Brun Hund, or the Litten Brun Hund again.
Yep.
You're going to need a second bottle of that soon, I think. Because you seem to very much enjoy that. I've been going as slowly as I can through mine. Yes. Elizabeth, beat up, whiskey poured, chocolate ready. Could be worse. That sounds like it could be worse. To be fair, that sounds like a nice little setup.
Oh, nice.
And Kevin's
very
on
nice
his indeed,
Kevin, very nice indeed.
Yeah, but so that comment that we had there from Elizabeth, I'll just talking about chocolate being there. Sarah, you're a blogger. We've had a number of bloggers on recently, and one thing that we've enjoyed talking to people about and finding out about is their different ways of writing, or the sort of things that they like to write about, be it the history, be it just about the flavors and tasting notes, be all sorts of different stuff. But rather than jump into that, I'd like to talk about something that I wasn't aware of before until we spoke before tonight, and about chocolates and you making chocolates and fudges, or tell us a little bit about that, and how you got into it and what you do.
Well, a number of years back, I was visiting a distillery and had a little coffee, got a little bit of fudge with it, tried it, then ended up taking a piece home with me, tried again at home. I thought, I wonder if I can. So basically, I trialed a couple of recipes, took some into work, gave it to my, I think it was my boss at the time, asked him for his thoughts on it. He loved it. And it sort of went from there, really.
Yeah, nice. And you travel around and take them to festivals and shows and. Yeah,
well, I started off. I suppose the first batch I made, I sold in the office. Ben Bowers, a dram a day. Yeah. He had a charity evening, so I took some down to York.
The spirit specialist, as we know him.
The spirit specialist. So I took some down to York for his charity night, and people wanted to give me money for it. Well, the charity might give money for it. So it sort of went from there. I set up a little sort of online business, and then sort of took it to a few festivals as well, which was really good.
Yeah, I can imagine that being, because I was wondering if it was something that you just, maybe brought these chocolates along to festivals so that you could more easily negotiate trying bottles that might be under the desk, under the tables as you go around. But yeah, you've gone to the next level and you actually go and sell your wares and things around them. So.
Some of them I did. Some of them I just give boxes to friends. It's like, hello, have some fudge or have some chocolates. But no, it's really good. I tend to use cask strength whiskies in my fudges.
Gosh. Yeah.
Is that because the alcohol burns off slightly?
Slightly.
through the cooking process, etc.
Yeah, because it's just really a flash heat at the end.
Right.
But I make chocolates as well, and there's not much burns off there. And the same with the truffles. So they're very nice. They're very enjoyable.
Fantastic. It ticks my boxes, pal. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but no, they've been really well received. But I've had a quiet year with coronavirus and everything. I sort of shelved that because PP that I need to use kind of went through the roof. Okay. But I'll get back to it.
Well, I look forward to it. And now you and I have become acquainted, and hopefully on the way to being friends, I might get a try of one at some point if we can see each other.
You never know.
Even better, Rich. So would you be up for doing like a couple of things, but we can talk about it offline. But there's a couple of things we could do: a Mackmyra whiskey and chocolate pairing, or some Mackmyra into some of your chocolates and fudge.
I've tried it in fudge.
Okay.
I've tried it in fudge before, and it's really nice because I had the rock. What was the other one?
But was it core?
Whisky?
Yeah,
looks nice.
And something else. So I have tried it. It does sit well with it.
Very nice. Yeah, very nice indeed. One of the questions I was going to ask was, what whiskies might you have used before, and a smoky whiskey in particular. So you've used Sven's Rook. How does smoky whiskey fare with and match up to chocolate or fudge?
Really nicely. Yeah. I've used sort of Kalila and the Kalila Moch in that.
Okay.
In the whiskies, I've used some Rickladi as well, sort of Black Heart. What else have I used? But the best one I would say would be the Kalila. That seems to have gone down really well.
Sorry, sir, I need to interrupt you there. You used a bottle of Black Heart in the...
I got a sample from a friend.
Okay.
And I made some.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not any just like ordinary shelved whiskey there. You know what I mean?
It's not any ordinary fudge.
I've no doubt about that. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. But yeah, that's a fair old big heavy hitting swinging whiskey to be doing that with.
Sometimes if somebody's got something that they really love and enjoy,
yeah,
and you can give them something a little bit different, then why not give it a bash?
Nice. I think we used to have these cocktail shows. So like last year when the first lockdown came in, every Friday we had, it was called Mackmyra and Friends. And as Mitch just as I've reminded him, he's got a cocktail beside him. And one of the things I sort of learned then, I came into it with the philosophy of, drink your whiskey the way, or maybe in this instance, consume your whiskey the way you want to consume it. There's no wrong way of doing it. And I didn't spend much time thinking even a few years ago that you shouldn't use very nice whiskey. Let's call it very nice whiskey, such as Black Heart, in things. But then I was told, whilst doing these shows, if you want to make a really, really great cocktail, the same way that a chef would look at the ingredients that they're using, the better the ingredients you use, the better the end product you're going to get. So you shouldn't just think, oh, this whiskey is not quite so much for me, or that's a cocktail like filler whiskey or something, and then just water it down and try and hide any flavour in or mask it or whatever it might be. But yeah, the better item you use, the better products you use, the better the result you're going to get at the end. In theory, of course, but I think that's not a bad formula. So that to me sounds like something very good. Could Mick and I, perhaps, I don't want to put you on the spot, could we find something, a favourite of ours on the shelf and send it to you and see what you might do for a fee, of course? But I'd be interested.
No, that's fine, because the way I saw it was, you can't necessarily sit in the office with a dram during the day, but nobody's going to shout at you for a birthday.
That is. Oh, and is this some of what you do here? Is this your packaging, I assume, we're looking at?
Yes, it is. And my chocolates.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's very beautiful. And do you know what? Honestly, that is I love that. Do you know what I mean? We're not hiding in coffee mugs. Do you know what I mean? We're not hiding anything. We're just having a chocolate.
Yeah.
What's the problem? Having a chocolate.
You do have to watch your breath, but
for sure.
Yeah, we have a coffee chocolate afterwards or something. Just try and mask it a bit. Perhaps it's not a bad show.
But no, it's a nice thing to do.
Yeah. So in the Invergordon, I've just thought now that we're talking about chocolate, my single grain journey began with the Exceptional Grain, a bottle that Mick might be looking for now, that came with the Somerton Whiskey Club.
That's all gone, Rich, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I've got this much left of mine, and I've been keeping it so that when friends can start now coming round, I can take them down that single grain road and journey. But that was what sort of got me into, or opened my mind up perhaps to wanting to explore more single grain. But then the next thing was through the Southport Whiskey Club, I think one of the festivals that they had, and there was a Douglas Lang Old Particular a single grain tasting where they had 5 Douglas Lang single grains, and they got sent to us with a couple of caramels and chocolates and things.
Yeah.
Because Fred likes to pair chocolates and fudges and caramels with single grain, and that's what I sort of learned about. That was one of the first times I'd ever paired. It had been done for me, of course, but it was one of the first times I ever paired food with grain, and it works so perfectly. And since then, I've sent a couple of samples around to some mates of mine. We've done a little mini virtual tasting, and I've sent a few chocolates that I bought so that we can do it. So does single grain work in mixing with chocolate, or is it sort of then too much of the same thing?
I don't really go there with it. I've only used one grain whiskey, well, one Invergordon, and it was the 10-year-old from Petit Whiskey. I used that once, but that's something that I tend to set on the side. I tend to use, sherry cask whiskies, and that's what I like using.
So just
grain, not really.
That lends itself more towards like you would do like a traditional like whiskey and chocolate pairing with. So like obviously most people say like a good sherry whiskey goes quite well with a chocolate, this and the other. So you tend to use that style of whiskey more.
No, I just use my favourite whiskies and fudge and chocolate. That's really honestly where it came from. Because I use the Glendronach batch. I suppose it's 7 and 8. And it's just whiskies I enjoy, which I know other people enjoy, and that's really it. And I do like a cask strength. It's really simple.
Yeah.
If I wasn't looking forward to getting to festivals again before, then I certainly am now. Anyway, do you ever venture far south? Because I think you're Scotland based, if I'm not mistaken, and yeah.
I am. I do get about a bit. Yeah, I think one year I did nearly 11,000 miles going around to different festivals.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Because that's something. Oh, go on. Carry on.
No,
that's impressive mileage.
Yeah.
It is, but it's nice to kind of get away, even though I've got it on my doorstep. Because the first festival I went to was the Yorkshire Whisky Festival in York at the race course, and I walked in and I got my first dram, and it was a Ben Rinnes.
Okay.
And I said, "Oh yeah, I was up that a few months ago." He sort of looked at me. I said, "Yeah, told him where I was from," and he just about ended himself because I'd gone all the way down to Yorkshire for a festival when I've got it on my doorstep.
Because that's something else that I've learned about you before sort of coming on today, is that you do like to go to festivals and you do like to travel around to them. So how many do you think you've done all these miles? How many festivals do you think you've been to? Have you kept a track?
No, I've got wristbands.
Okay, yeah. Do you keep them on? Do you keep them on in the shower and they're just on all the time, or do you take them
No, just the weekend that I'm away. But I do have a little box with them kind of sat in. Nice. But yeah, I suppose the furthest sort of south I've been would be the Whisky Exchange show in London.
Okay, yeah. I mean that's the big that draws a lot of people down from Scotland. Yeah. I think really see a fair amount of people as well. Yeah. And how many places have you taken your chocolates and fudges? Is fudges the plural of fudge?
Fudges.
Yeah, fudges too. Yeah.
Fudges.
Is it fudge eye? I mean, I don't know.
It could be.
Fudge.
Yeah. Carl's probably Googling in the background for us.
He's gonna be, yes.
I haven't sold it at the Whisky Exchange show, but it was requested that I make some for one of the stands.
Oh, nice.
Elements of Islay had some on their stand, so it was nice to go there and actually see it. Yeah. And then again, I've just got some in my rather large handbag to feed people.
Make friends with. What a brilliant tool.
So one of our brand ambassadors in Germany and a regular visit to the inn and pretty much everything we do, Tamara, she's very, very good at the whiskey and food pairing and incorporating whiskies into lots of different foods and stuff. She just made a comment there. She prefers to make chocolates with Lagavulin, Kilchoman, Octomore, and rum cask finished whiskies. Okay. And the Belveni. Nice tea, nice.
What do you think about that, Sarah? Is that
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see what other people do. Like I say, I've got my, I suppose, stable of whiskies which I like to use. And I suppose it's each to their own. It's everyone's palate again, isn't it? Yeah. Because with the dark chocolates, I tend to use sort of peaty whiskies. My milk chocolates, I tend to use sort of my Glenfarclas 15. That sort of.
Yeah, but it's like you said, you tend to use the whiskies that you like because you know those whiskies and you know your chocolate and your fudge, etc., and what those flavors are going to bring to the party and that. So yeah, I suppose the more you would experiment and further your palate essentially, then obviously the more your range of chocolate and fudges would probably grow as well.
Yeah, like I said, I used to just bring them into my boss, and if it wasn't there, he'd just come back to a little parcel, a smiley going, "Please try." So yeah, it's just, I suppose, trial and error, but there's not been many errors, if any.
Okay. I was about to ask actually, yeah, because Mick, said the word experiment a moment ago, and I thought to myself, actually, that's a good point, because there might have been some where you thought, oh, that might pair well together. What, in your earlier days, perhaps, and it hasn't. But you say a few errors, any areas were errors worth remarking upon, or they just sort of weren't fantastic but weren't bad, Anything
Not really. I mean, I suppose there's only one that didn't quite sit well, and that was I had a Ben Riach that I just wanted to use because I found it in my cupboard. I forgot I had it, and it was a special release for one of the shops here. So I just thought I'd give it a bash, do something with myself, but it ended up tasting quite yeasty. So I don't know what it was with the interaction between all the sugar and the butter and whatever, but everything else has been a solid hit.
Yeah, no, it sounds of the whole time we've been talking about this, and especially when you talked about some specific things, and when Mick, you were reading out Tamara's comment, I've been trying to imagine the flavour and the experience and things in my mind, and I'm having a great time imagining things. So I look forward to actually being able to do it. You mentioned Ben Rinners is on your doorstep. Ben Rinners for me was quite a late discovery, I suppose, and I think the first time I tried it was 2019. And I think up until 2018, 2019, and you have to forgive me for this, I had this, without meaning to, this sort of mindset as though if I haven't heard of a distillery much, or I haven't really had an opportunity to try it here and there, then can it be that good? And what I've discovered very quickly after, I think Ben Rinners was one of the first gateways into workhorse distilleries that they might be referred to. That I absolutely love. You said you've got it on your doorstep. Is it something that you enjoy to drink? Is there anything else that might be nearby that you like anymore?
Yeah, it was a 23-year-old I tried at York, and that was absolutely phenomenal. I just love that whiskey. I don't have any bottles of it in the house, I don't think. I'm just having a quick look. I have some of the distilleries around me. Glendronach.
Yeah, okay, very good.
Yeah, absolutely love their offerings. I
imagine that stands up where you're talking about sherry cask whiskies you like to use in your chocolate. So I expect you mentioned batch 7 and 8, I think, a minute ago. If there's anyway,
yeah, that's as far as I've gone with the Glendronach. It's just like, just leave the rest for drinking.
Have we got to a point yet? I've seen a sliding scale recently. The two of you might be able to answer this, where the 21-year-old, for example, it was 24 years old really in there, and then the 18 was more like 21 or so, because their gap in stocks that they had after reopening.
They're all caught up by now, Rich, I think.
Okay, yeah. I managed to get a few of mine.
I think we're all caught up by now. I think the biggest one was the 15-year-old.
Right.
That had probably the most majority of the older whiskey in, because of the time frame when the 15-year-old come out and with the shutdown and all that sort of good stuff. I think that was the one that was more hardly sought after over the 18 and the 21. Obviously, the 18 and the 21 did have some more older whiskies in it, but it was the 15 that was really the more bang for your buck on age, as opposed to the age statement that was on the bottle, as it were.
And other favourite distilleries then that might not necessarily be around the area to you. What are your sort of go-to whiskies? Be it Scottish or Swedish. You can pick a Swedish one if you wish, but we can narrow it down to Scottish to begin with. What's what do you get excited about?
Glenfarclas.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sensing the sherry. Yeah.
Rich, you literally just stole the words out of my mouth. I was going to say there's quite a sherry heavy theme going on here.
Yeah, but believe it or not, I used to be a bit of a peat head. So there you go. I suppose palates can change a little, because I was never without sort of Lefroy in the house, Lefroy 10, whatever. But yeah, palates sort of changed a bit. So I really enjoy nice sherry cask.
Nice.
Yeah.
So people tend to go the other way, like ease in with a sherry cask and then tend towards, build themselves up palate wise, etc., like that, towards a peated whiskey, whereas you've gone the other way.
Yeah, I suppose it's because it wasn't really something that had perhaps been on my radar before now.
Yeah.
And then I tried a few and I thought, oh, actually, so I'm quite enjoying my little journey with them as well. I think the only one I wouldn't buy again would be the Ardbeg Ugadal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we nearly tried. Well, we nearly killed a Frenchman with that one night, but that's another story.
Can that be a story now, or does it have to be a story from?
That would be fairly impressive. Like, in all fairness,
There was a French gentleman visiting from France, as it happens, and even though he's in his early 30s, he never drank alcohol.
Right. Okay.
As a Frenchman, that's very strange because quite a lot of their culture is, like a glass of wine or two with lunch, and even down as young as like 12 years old. That's quite, a 3-hour lunch is not unheard of. With wine as well. I used to work for a French company, and my boss and the assistant boss were both French, and they would disappear for like 3 hours at a time for lunch and come back with, a couple of glasses of wine in them, etc. But then, we'd leave at 5 and they'd stay till about 8 or 9 at night or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's quite strange then for a French person. Obviously, I'm not trying to paint every French person as being like that because that would be quite wrong. But no, but it's more unusual though, so that's quite interesting.
But it can be It can be a personal thing, can't it? Because you don't know why or what gave them that decision. I mean, there was a point where I gave up drinking for about 7 years just because I did. You know. So, but anyway, so he came round and had a couple of drams, and then he was given an Ardbeg Ugadal, which he nearly chokes on. So yeah, it wasn't. It just took him by surprise. It was like, just have a sip, have a nose. But so that's the story. But at the end of it, he said he really likes me. So I think it was the whiskey, perhaps. But it was funny. It was funny at the time.
Fantastic.
I have to each their own, of course. Of it, I love a little bit of Ardbeg Ugadal, the Ugi of. I think I'm on bottle number 2 of it now. I think where I am. That's So peated whiskey. So I loved sherry whiskey first. I think I've sort of gone not necessarily the opposite direction to you, but sherry cask whiskies. I just that. Lefroy 10 was the whiskey that got me into whiskey, that opened my mind up and eyes and to a world of whiskey that wasn't just the types of bottles that might be suspended upside down behind a bar with the auto measures. Which and again, if a good whiskey is a whiskey somebody likes to drink, so if that's something that somebody enjoys, it's very much a good whiskey. But I'd only ever had middling to poor experiences with them until Lefroy 10 came on the scene, and I absolutely loved it. And then I went down a big journey of sherry cask whiskies. But I think I've had so much of them. I've had a couple of things that were exclusive or like only matured in, like First for Oloroso for 12 years, big sherry bombs. And some of them that I had, not all, but some were just a bit too overcooked for me, or a bit too sherry heavy. And I think it started me on a bit of a journey weaning off of sherry, probably a year ago or so now. And now I'm all about ex-bourbon and refill casks at the moment, and be it peated or unpeated. I'm on a refill journey, I think. And peated is definitely, if I was going to be on a desert island and somebody said peated or unpeated the rest of your life, I think I'd go for peated. But it only makes up about 20% of what I've got behind me, even though smoky whiskies would probably be my preference, I guess. You've got some whiskies in front of you, Sarah. So you've not done what Mick and I do, where we bear our camera pointing the other way. But a moment ago, you had a look around at your shelves. So I guess they're atop your computer, are they?
They are behind me. Oh, in front of me. Behind me are the CT pictures, just in case anyone's interested. But I've got whiskey cabinets in front of me, so that's what I'm sort of looking at.
And are these mostly? Mick, that might be a good change for us, because then we can see our whiskies at the same time. That might be good for morale. Are they mostly boutique-y, or have you got the bulk of something else?
Boutique-y, Glendronach, Balvenie.
Okay.
Glenfiddich, Auchentoshan, and I think that's about it, really, and various other bottles in between.
We tried some very nice Balvenis a few weeks ago. We had Charlie Metcalf. One of the
I like Charlie. Yeah,
he's a lovely bloke. He came and joined us and was quite generous with some of the samples that he sent to us.
He most certainly was.
We were most grateful for them, I will say. And I learned whilst we had him here something I didn't know, that they do a bit of their own floor malting too, which I think is quite, because we're one of, I think, fewer than a dozen in the world that malt and peat our own barley, and I hadn't realised that Balvenie did a bit of that too. Have you done? Because I imagine if you're near Glendronach, Balvenie's not too far away, at least as the crow flies. Have you spend much time there or at Glenfiddich going around?
Yeah, if I go out for a drive, I ordinarily end up at Glenfiddich for coffee. And even during the lockdown, they had a little sort of marquee outside. We could go outside. But if you haven't done the Balvenie tour, it's a must do.
Yeah,
that is really good.
Yeah, of some friends of mine got married in Scotland last year. They had to elope because their wedding was cancelled. And Paul, my friend, is a massive Balvenie fan, and Charlie set up a nice little experience for him when he went there as well. So
that's nice.
Yeah, I sent Charlie a few drams to say thank you, and almost as a prepayment so that I might be able to go there and have a special little tour with him too. So we'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to that. Did you get to see much of the Kinninvie, the sort of the wee experimental one?
No, not really, but I've done the tour twice, 2-3 times now. I did a special one with the Spit of Speyside. Was it 2 years ago now? And that was good. So we went for lunch in one of the private houses.
Nice. Yeah.
Talking about, so go on, Sarah, please.
No, go on.
So just talking about like special experiences and all that sort of good stuff, and that's what we associate like whiskey with, regardless if it's Scotch, Irish, Swedish, whatever. What was your first wow whiskey? What got you into whiskey really?
I guess I've always had an interest in whiskey. I mean, my dad was a whiskey drinker. My mum used to make wine as well when I was sort of like knee high. So I was having sort of like wine with lemonade when I probably shouldn't have. But never mind. No, I've always had an interest in whiskey.
We won't tell anybody.
But everyone knows. But the thing is, I suppose when I was sort of in my early 20s, I started off drinking Jack Daniels, that sort of thing. And then what did I start to drink? I can't think. It was the odd dram here and there. Then I suppose I was given a couple of samples from people, and I suppose my interest just grew. I've known the likes of Governor Dave Worthington and that for sort of 9 years now. Sort of social media and that. And it's just been a case of just buying bottles. I had a couple of bottles of Tom and Howell over the years, sort of 16-year-old, that sort of thing back in the day. Jura. I was a huge Jura at one point. And that kind of really did it for me, And then again, what you're willing to buy changes and you just carry on from there.
Yeah. That sounds some natural progression happening there. Jura for me was one of my... if not, I think it was the first single malt that I ended up drinking without adding any ice to, because as I was getting into whiskey, I added a drop or two of ice to it because my personal experience, it was a bit of heat on the throat. I couldn't quite help having that, and I didn't really want to, so I added a bit of ice here and there. And I was on Mull, the Isle of Mull. I was cycling across it, well, not all the way across, but a sort of 10-mile stretch from family here to family there, and picked up a half bottle of Jura 10 along the way. And when I arrived at the other end and saw my cousins there was no ice to be had, so I just sort of poured the dram as it was. Ended up really enjoying it, and sort of never looked back, and just haven't used anything like that since. I'll add Micky. We from time to time like to cool Brooks whiskey in particular, and Bjork Sav's done quite nice when it's cooled. But Jura for me, and it wasn't until a couple of years ago I found out Jura from certain corners seems to get a bit of a bashing, but I defend it to the hilt whenever I can, because a good whiskey is a whiskey you like to drink. And for me, I've always found it such an easy drinker. So I've got a delicious Old Particular as well, a 12-year-old Douglas Langura that was finished in a PX cask that I can't get enough of that one. Talking about your whiskey journey, it was not a motorbike, Steve, I will say, and and quiet roads on the Ross of Mull down on the southwest of it. Your name or one of your aliases, perhaps, like Smoggy, where does that come from? Was that part of your whiskey journey, or was that something that came from somewhere else?
That's me. Basically, I ended up working with a lady from Middlesbrough, and she was going about Smoggies. I said, "What the hell is a Smoggy?" She said, "Well, somebody from Middlesbrough." I was like, "Right, I'm from Middlesbrough." So I don't know if it's something that really started to get used after 1981 when I'd left. So yeah, Smoggy. So just call myself Smiley Smoggy or Smoggy. I get cold Smoggy or Smogs or whatever. So yeah, I just use Smiley Smoggy.
So from the borough, then it comes from there.
Middlesbrough, because it gets quite smoggy sort of around Teesside and Teesport and all that lot.
So that was going to be something I was going to ask you, actually, because I grew up in my early years in the Royal Navy, so met people from all over the country. So people come with all sorts of different kinds of accents, and with those accents in parts of the country that they come from, attract different nicknames, etc. And Smoggy being from Middlesbrough, etc. I was going to ask, do you have a Middlesbrough connection? Because you obviously, like myself living in Glasgow, obviously I don't have a quite that Glaswegian accent that people expect. And same as yourself, you don't really have that Middlesbrough accent.
No, I suppose I should sound something like Bob Mortimer, but don't. Probably the same level of humour, but I've got this accent. I've been up here for about 40 years and I don't have a local accent either. So,
yeah. What took you to Scotland then? What was the reason for the move there?
A lot of screaming and crying. No, I didn't want to come here. Back in the 80s, there were a lot of redundancies around about Teesport, Teesside.
Okay.
And parents had 3 children under the age of, I guess, 15. So my dad, being a chap from Edinburgh, had a look for work up here, and that's why we moved up.
Very good. I think with your Smiley Smoggy, your name, and you just mentioned Bob Mortimer. Then I've grown up on Bob Mortimer, and I think on things like Would I Lie to You? I know it's a quick digress now, but I think he's the funniest person that's ever been on that show. And when he talks about driving across to the West Coast to go and see the effects of the Gulf Stream in one of his bits, I've seen that about 10 times now. I just can't stop watching. The best of Bob Mortimer on Would I Lie to You will make anybody happy, I think.
That's a funny bloke.
I'm just a massive fan of Vic and Bob and their double act and just their ridiculousness. So, like, when they did Shooting Stars, that for me, it was just like the height of ridiculousness, but also just absolute hilarity as well, And that's obviously, we got to know Matt Lucas. So he's a baby. He's a baby. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, exactly. And it's just like iconic moments like that. And you don't necessarily think of these people as like in their own individual right, etc. But then you think back to, actually, what did he do? When you start talking about him, what did he do? Oh, actually, Vic and Bob. And you go, do Shooting Stars and other stuff like that. And you go, wow. And you think about stuff you used to say to your pals when you were at school, and like all those famous like catchphrases and that they come up with. And most of them when I was at school was from Vic and Bob, and it's just amazing.
So he met someone
when you were at school, but I get your drift.
Yeah, he met someone in a park when he was out walking his dog, and then became an investor in this chap's brewery, I think, as well. Yeah. So he's got some skin in the beer game as well. So I mentioned, I referenced quickly at the beginning about the fact that you do a blog as well. And I'd be remiss if we weren't to talk about that at all, because something that Mick and I both enjoy talking to people about are their blogs and what their individual their style, I guess, their method, what they like to do. So it's called Inside the Bottle.
No, it's called ilovewhisky.blog.
Oh no, okay, right. So, but there's part of the blog's called Inside the Bottle. Can I say myself?
So I write some posts called Inside the Bottle.
Okay.
And that is probably me sat with, looks good, doesn't it? You wouldn't think I liked Invergordon whiskey. So the Inside the Bottle is me sat with a whiskey and just thinking about certain things in life, issues, that sort of thing. And it's really, well, they're written from the heart. So sometimes it might be addressing certain situations or certain memories, and that's more the Inside the Bottle type thing. And some of them explain why they're written as well. And I do reviews as well. So
it's like quite a personal thing for you. It sounds like to me, or like your style of writing it.
It is. It's just sometimes you perhaps aren't heard or find it hard to get words out. But if you can write and you can just get your thoughts on a piece of paper and somebody somewhere reads it and it hits home, something hits home with them, then that's good.
Yeah, nice. And is that why you started then? Because you wanted to get some thoughts out there, and it was good medium.
I was kind of toying with it, and then somebody said, "Why don't you just go and do it?" So I did, because I've always been quite chatty. I mean, when I was a little girl, my mum didn't teach. She always said, I never taught you baby words. It was always like horse, not horsey, that sort of thing. She said, once you started talking, you never stopped. But if you haven't got people to talk to, you write. And, I've had some lovely comments about my writing as well. I even had one during the week again. And, obviously touches some people. And it's nice that they take the time to engage with me that way.
Yeah, it sounds that's the different styles and things that people have. There's such a diverse amount. A whiskey blog isn't just the same thing every time. It's not just somebody saying, here's the fact sheet of the whiskey, here's some tasting notes. That I think there's so much diversity around, and there's something people can connect with something. And as you said in your case just then, people can find it and they like the way that you write things, they like the way that you present it. Then they're going to come back again because you're writing in their sort of style. And it's so, I think it's just brilliant for that person who found a blog as much as it is for you who's created it and writing it, to find something where they've got a resource of information or just some new things so they can learn a little bit along the way from somebody who's delivering it in a way that is in line with them, the way that they digest and learn themselves. So that's what that's one of the reasons why we enjoy asking people about it and sort of where they're coming from when they write things as well. So I think that's fantastic. I do just want to very quickly divert our attention to a comment that we've seen here from Kevin, and I can't believe we didn't remember this one, Mick, as we were talking about shooting stars a minute ago.
I remembered it, Rich. I remembered it. I mean,
that's one of the catchphrases that was shouted in my school playgrounds. I will say, car. Never stopped. I think Andy from Maltbox. I think we'll probably all know Andy. He was one of our VIP patrons a while ago as well. I think when he reviewed the yak liver last year, I'm sure he referenced, Sweden's famous for a few things, this, that, and the other, and then he said Ulrika Johnson, and I hadn't thought of Ulrika Johnson in years. I've just maybe not been in the right circles for it. But when he said, I just couldn't stop laughing, and that's one of the first things that I thought about. So thank you, Kevin, for bringing that back to our attention.
She took some stick on that show, did that woman? Honestly, she was fantastic.
She probably deserved it.
So I thought, Andy reviewed, I just mentioned that yak liquor then. Bjork Sav, we've got our monthly tasting tomorrow, our core range, as Mick mentioned at the beginning, with Bjork Sav as our seasonal addition to it. I think you quite enjoyed the Bjork Sav, if I'm not mistaken. I think I recall that. Can you remember any thoughts about it now? Anything that you might be able to share with our fellow patrons joining from home?
I'm trying to think. I think it was quite a nice light fruitiness, didn't it? Quite fresh on the nose. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Sorry, there's a lot gone on between having tried that and now. But yeah,
only but imagine.
Yeah. But yeah, quite light and fresh. I think, and a bit some fruits on those as well. I think I wouldn't want to compare it to. Excuse me. So sorry. I want to compare it too strongly to grains, but I imagine if you quite like your grains as you do, Bjork Sav is, while still being a single malt, of course, is not too dissimilar, maybe in terms of its sort of a bit of sweetness to it and a bit of lightness, perhaps, depending on the grain. I appreciate as well. I can see the two going hand in hand. We're getting on. We're getting on to the question of your favourite whiskey scenario, Sarah, if we may. And thank you, Mick. That means it's last orders. Last orders at the bar. And so if whatever you might be pouring at home, please comment and let us know. I saw a Tomatin car strength, I think, in there earlier from Steve that we didn't pick up. So that's not a bad dram, I'd say, and a decent ABV on there. Some good car strength whiskey that might do well with a chocolate. The Stawning Rye. Yeah, interesting, Kevin. I haven't opened mine yet, but I intend to very soon.
Mine's nearly gone, Rich. Mine's nearly gone.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is it? What's it like, Mick?
Nice. Get a nice good bit of spiciness like you would expect from a rye. Yeah. At 48%, it doesn't taste like it should be 48%, in all fairness. It's dangerously drinkable at 48%. But yeah, and it will open up a little bit more with a little tiny touch of water. I mean, a little tiny touch as well. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, good. I've tried one of their others. I can't remember which one it is now. I tried it in Milroy's at the end of a rather large flight of whiskies. Dolphin's Highland Park from Bully. I'm really enjoying it. I think
a bit of context to that. Bully doesn't normally like Highland Park, and he's never ever been in the submarine service in the Royal Navy whatsoever. So that's quite a lot of negatives there. But because he is in the submarine service, and he's probably one of the biggest fans of Highland Park going.
Okay. Yeah, very good. Yeah, Stawning Rye, Elizabeth enjoying the Stawning Rye as well. I think just a big shout out to our, Scandinavian distillery cousins. We're all one part of a big family, I think, across the channel as well. So, yeah, I look forward to tucking into mine. But yeah, right, Sarah. So, your favourite whiskey scenario? I always sort of couch this question by saying we appreciate that we could ask you this, at different days of the week, and you might have a different answer for us. But as we are here and now, what's your favourite whiskey scenario? So, what's in the glass? Where are you? And who are you with, if anyone?
What whiskey in my glass? Nice sherry cask whiskey with friends.
I thought you might say sherry cask whiskey. I thought it would be there. Yeah.
Not that predictable, am I? With friends, somewhere nice, comfy, quiet, fire crackling in the background, just chilling the heck out.
Sounds good.
Just chatting, just nice, easy conversation.
Yeah, I like the idea at any point of being sat back in your chair, and as you say, with friends. If there's a fire nearby, all the better, and a nice glass of something. Could I push you to be any more specific on the dram? If you were going to reach up for the whiskies in front of you now, let's say, which one do you think you'd pour a dram of?
Probably
not the one your arm gets through fastest.
Probably Glenfarclas. It was a nice Glenfarclas from the Spirit Space side in 2000. And what year are we in now? 2019. I would get up and get the bottle, but that was a nice fruity whiskey, and I just loved it. And I managed to get another release last year, but I haven't opened that yet. But just something that I like, having a whiskey sat next to me that's got a really nice aroma, and it just sort of comes to greet my senses, and it doesn't really need my attention. I know it's there for when I want it, and I just enjoy that experience of spending time with it, looking at the legs,
I was smiling as you were saying that, because I love that experience myself as well. When nose for days, just something that you almost don't want to drink it because you're enjoying the nose and the aroma just sort of wafting. If you've got a window open somewhere, and every now and then you can just smell the glass from 5 paces away, or that sort of thing. Very much enjoy that as well. Yeah. So, Mick, what's why we don't ask each other too often? What would yours be here and now?
I'm pretty sure I've not changed mine since the last time we talked about this before Christmas last year.
Alone in a dark room with anything.
I'm still alone in the middle of nowhere in a cottage in front of the fire. Do you know what I mean? With a nice big glass of probably like either Svenska looking Amerikansk, if I was going to stay on brand, or a electric 18 or the 19-year-old port cask or something like that, you know?
Yeah, that'd be nice indeed. How do you feel about Leipzig, Sarah? You said Leipzig, the peated Tobermory.
I think it's Leipzig. I was surprised.
Oh.
That's a whole different show. That's going to happen after.
What's all them people? Leipzig. I had one a number of years ago that just wasn't good.
Okay.
I just didn't enjoy it. There just wasn't really anything on it. And then I won a bottle of Leipzig from Claxton's, which is tucked on my shelf over there. And I really enjoyed it. But yeah, Leipzig, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's and now, what do you think about Leipzig? Yeah, it was we're quite a big fan of Leipzig, Micky and I. So I think that's we often joke, although it's become less of a joke and actually probably quite accurate that that's the whiskey about the most after Mackmyra on any show and tasting that we do, I would say. But there's some good sherry cask Leipzigs knocking around. I think Tobermory, obviously the unpeated version of it, they've had some really good sherry casks recently as well. Is Tobermory been anything that's on your radar at all?
Not really.
It's not quite as widely consumed, I think, perhaps as many other Scottish brands, but especially Leipzig. That seems to get much more of the love.
I guess it's just what's on people's radars, isn't it?
Yeah. 100%.
So Mick and I should probably talk about them less, because the fewer people get turned onto those whiskies, the longer the pricing
will for us
competitive.
Yeah, like Invergordon is really not that good. Everyone just leave it.
Yeah. Invergordon terrible, Leipzig terrible. Wink, wink. Yeah. I mean, what else do I want to avoid people from having? I think those are the two. So yeah. Great. Right. Well, I will say that's probably not a bad time to wrap things up. If we're all okay, I'll go home, leave the pub. Mick and I have got to obviously clean up, get the doors locked. We'll change the kegs over and everything fresh for
the dishwasher.
Yeah, that's it. And empty the ashtrays from the pub garden. I think it's something. Glad we don't have to do that indoors anymore, Mick. Sarah, before we do go, any parting words or messages you might have for anyone that might be joining us?
No, thank you for having me. It was nice to have a chat.
Yeah, you're most welcome.
Our pleasure. Have you got any upcoming pre-planned festivals further on in the year that you're going to be attending, or
not yet? Not yet. I'm just going to wait and see what happens out there.
Yeah, not a bad shout. Well, you do. I mean, you've got in the pipeline. You've got making some chocolates for Mick and myself at least.
Or some fudge or my truffles. I don't send.
I'll take either.
Truffles out, but truffles are.
Somebody referenced truffles earlier in the comments as well about enjoying something with nice whiskey and some truffles. Yeah, I spotted that. So we'll liaise at another time and we'll work out a plan. But I would definitely like to take advantage of having you on screen now, where you have to be polite and agree to it and have something.
I agree to most things.
Mick, if you will, just a really quick recap of what we've got coming up.
Sure. So coming up tomorrow night, we have our monthly tasting of our core range and Bjork Sav. Next week, we have Millie Milliken in the boozer with us to talk about all things. Another online blogger and writer, etc. Really, from another perspective. And don't forget, keep your eyes peeled to our social media over the coming days, weeks. for our new release coming up. I do believe. If anybody blinked, you missed it, but there it was. There was a wee teaser.
Yeah,
Cole's now getting a sack for that, so that's fine. So if anybody would like to apply for Carl's job as online brand ambassador director, just drop us all an email. That'd be great. Only joking, Carl. We couldn't live without your brother. But no. So that's the next couple of shows, and the next big thing really coming from Mackmyra. Or, oh no, we can't mention that one in the moment. But there's something else coming as well, which we've hinted at before. But it's all good. It's all good. It's coming. It's coming. But no, Sarah, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on with us. And Rich, to see us out.
Yeah, brilliant. Just thank you, Mick, once again, a consummate professional that you are, as a co-landlord of the pub, of the inn. And Sarah, thank you so much for coming to join us. It's been very nice getting to know you a bit more as well. I think we've had limited interaction here and there through the Whisky Circus, but I've very much enjoyed having a chat. So thank you
very much.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, everyone who's joined us as our patron from home. Whether or not you're one of our regulars or someone that's joined us for the first time, thank you very much. You're very welcome to come back anytime you like. We're back again next Wednesday, as Mick said, at 7 o'clock with Millie Millican. And until then, look after yourselves, and hope to see you all again soon. So, skål.
Skål.